So these are going to be 11 things that I wish I knew before I got started with Turo. And I know a lot of you guys that are watching this are probably thinking, "Hey, why does that person over there do well and this person over here just lost money doing this?" This video is going to center around the things that I did wrong, and then I put standard operator procedures in place so that I wouldn't make the same mistake. And this video is going to have lessons really ingrained with a lot of stories for why I ended up deciding on some of these things. Now, the first thing that I wish that I knew is that not all renters are going to be the same. And let me elaborate. 95% of your renters are going to be great. They'll rent your car, you'll make money, it'll be wonderful. Here's what I want you to be prepared for is that it's not a matter of if you get a bad renter, it's just a matter of when. And this story is going to give you guys an idea for why I'm a fan of hardwire trackers. So I had this guy that wanted to rent the Versa. It looked great. His license checked out. He had all 5-star reviews. Seemed like he was going to be a good guest. He was pretty communicative. Well, so the end of the trip hit, and I didn't hear from the guy. I reach out to him, "Hey, car's supposed to be returned, whatever. Nothing. So 24 hours go by, reach out to Turo support. They can't get a hold of the guy. So then I end up calling the police and reporting the vehicle is stolen. And to give you guys a little caveat here, this was at the time when I didn't do hardwire trackers. I just did the trackers that you plug into the little port. This person ripped out that tracker and basically had this vehicle for 2 to 3 weeks. That's how long it took them to recover it. And they basically found it abandoned in a parking lot. Of course, this was something that I was upset about because I lost around $700 worth of earnings. I was not very happy about it. But the point is that if I would have knew that before, like, hey, these things are going to happen, it's just a matter of when, that I would have been like, hey, it's just something that happens in the business, which is also why I'm a big fan of hardwire trackers, because it is significantly harder for somebody to take those trackers out. If they do want to take it out and they don't know how to do it, they'd have to go to a professional. And most professionals would be like, is this your car? Why are you trying to remove this that somebody put in there? Makes them less likely to do it. So the second thing that I learned is that the wrong car will destroy your margins. I'm sure you guys that are watching this channel here, probably you watch and you're like, hey, Peter is really into economy cars. Why do Peter and George always talk about economy cars? Well, the reason why is because when we first started, we tried luxury cars. And I'll give you an idea of what happened. When we first got this going around 5 years ago, we had it was a 3 Series BMW that we had on the platform. First couple months, it was great. It was making money. And then it was by month like 4 or 5, it just had a multitude of issues. It was like a tire blew, the check engine light was always coming on, and it was something new. And the problem with the tire blowing is that on luxury cars, it's very, very expensive to get a new tire. And then the check engine light, this was another thing that I should have thought of. Maybe luxury cars can make sense if you have a hookup with somebody that knows how to work on these luxury cars, but then also has a connection with parts so they can get them relatively quickly. We didn't have either of those. So basically, when something wrong happened with this car, we did find a local guy, but the charges were so much more. And then whenever the car needed a part, we had to wait weeks and weeks to be able to get the part. So that's the reason why I'm not a big fan of luxury cars. I wish somebody would have told me that right off the bat. The third thing I want to tell you guys about is that I wish I knew how to buy the right vehicles. And when I say that, it's specifically buying vehicles that make sense and that can pay themselves off within a 6 to 12 month time frame. And I like that idea because how many businesses do you know of where you can buy a car or buy some kind of investment or invest in something and it gives you a return within a 6 to 12 month frame? That's pretty rare in any kind of business or any kind of investment. And I'll tell you guys how I came to this. Because the challenge is there was a car, this was around the first year and a half when I got started. I'm sure you guys have heard me talk about Mirages a lot. This was one of those Mirages. It was either a 2021 or a 2022. The point is that I bought it for it was in the upper teens. This one I didn't buy below market value. I bought it right at around market value. And the problem is that this vehicle got into an accident. Now, when this vehicle got into an accident, just for example's sake, because I don't have the exact number in front of me, let's say I paid $18,000 for this vehicle. What I can tell you guys for a fact is that they were not giving me $18,000 for the car, and the car was only operating for a couple months. They wanted to give me, it was like $15,000 for the car. So I was going to be underwater on this vehicle, right? The only reason why it wasn't a big problem is because I got gap insurance. So I didn't have to pull the money out of the business to pay for that in between amount that would have been owed. I got very lucky also because the gap insurance that I had actually covered ride sharing and car sharing. They kind of lump them together in the same category. I know now that a lot of gap insurances don't. So if you are buying a vehicle and you're looking to get gap, make sure that you either ask the rep or look in their agreement specifically to see, hey, does this gap insurance cover the car if I'm using it for car sharing? Because a lot don't. That one did for that particular situation, so I got lucky. But here's what would have made more sense. Instead of buying a car, even if it was only 5% above market value, always buy them below and make sure that it can pay itself off within that 6 to 12 month time frame. So the fourth thing that I wish that I would have known is that you need to scale accordingly and make sure that you're building systems. Now, why am I telling you this? Because I didn't do it that way. I did it the wrong way. There was a point where we had around 20 cars. George and I were running around like chickens with our head cut off, cleaning the cars, detailing them, messaging guests. We were just moving around so much, working in the business instead of working on the business. Now, hindsight is 2020. What could I have done differently? So the very first thing is that we could have done a much better job with documenting all of our SOPs. So a prime example is that it's like, okay, before the vehicle, let's say that a vehicle comes back. We know that we have to take all the pictures when it comes back. That should have been documented. Okay, you need to take 30 to 40 pictures as soon as the vehicle comes back. Then you need to vacuum the inside of the whole vehicle. Then you need to run the vehicle through the car wash. Then you need to do a whole walk around and take the before picture. Specifically, when you take the pictures for the next trip, they need to be pictures that were taken within a 24-hour time frame of when that trip actually is. If it's before 24 hours, that's where Turo will give you some issues with it because they might say, oh, there was a long time in between. We don't know if that dent that you're saying happened on the trip that the car is on now happened during your in-between time or if it happened when this vehicle was rented on the next trip. Little tangent there, but back to this. So wish I had an SOP for the before when a trip is I guess when the trip or after when a car comes back, then before when it's going out again. That would have been nice to have all that written down. Also, what are my SOPs for messaging? How do I deal with guests where it's okay, this is your pickup message, this is your drop-off message. Oh, you're having some kind of problem, you don't know how to open the trunk or something that seems consistent with the car. Okay, here are the things that you want to upload specifically in regards to that. So another thing that I wish I had an SOP around is maintenance cadence. Specifically saying, hey, we are going to check tires, brakes, oil, all of these things after a certain amount of mileage. Typically, that's the way that we do it now. At first, I was like, oh, we'll just check it every so months, which doesn't make a lot of sense because some cars are getting driven significantly more than others. Another thing is when it comes to inventory for spare keys, sometimes people lose keys and you don't want it where a car is out for a couple days just because you don't have a key to give somebody. Another thing which is critical is having some kind of process or procedure around pricing. I know this is a big one for everybody. We are consistently looking at the pricing to make sure that it's in line with what's going on with the market. What does that mean? Right now it's October 30th. We're getting ready to go into the busiest time of the year, which is going to be that Thanksgiving all the way up until New Year's. We know that's a busy time. We know that supply for cars gets low. So that is a time for us to raise our prices because demand is also pretty big demand during this time of the year. This fifth thing, and this might be a little bit on the controversial side, is that Turo is not a passive business. It can be, but I'm sure a lot of you're watching this, and trust me, I even thought the same thing when I got started. There was a friend that I had online. I used to do electronics flipping back in the day, and he was somebody that was in a mastermind group that I was a part of, and he was always posting these vehicles. And I'm like, oh, he's posting vehicles saying, oh, he's making money off them. I'm like, oh, that seems relatively passive, because in my brain I was likening it to real estate. What I didn't realize is that when I actually got into the business, first of all, when you first get into anything, there's a massive learning curve. I watched a ton of videos like you guys are right now. I joined different groups. I even paid for different things to learn how to do it. It's still going to be a lot of work. Nobody can sell you some kind of secret sauce where it's like, oh, it's going to be no work. No, it is going to be a lot of work on the front end. The only way that it's not work and it is truly passive is if you give your money to somebody that's co-hosting. That would be the only way this is passive. But in the beginning, get ready for something, I guess, depending on how many vehicles that you have. Let's say that you start off kind of like how we did with 5 cars. Get ready to give, I mean, I'd say like 10 to 15 hours a week towards this, which might not sound like a lot, but might be a little bit difficult if you have a full-time job or another business that you're operating. So just be prepared for the fact is that it is not completely passive when you're running it. You still have to do check-ins, check-outs, cleanings, making sure the cars are always in good order, and guest communications. So make sure that you're prepared for that. So the sixth thing that I wish that I would have known is on the insurance front. And I'm going to explain to you guys how insurance works. There are 2 types of insurance for this business. One is going to be when the car is on platform, Turo will cover the vehicle, well, as long as you follow their processes. And I'll give you guys an example of this from somebody that I worked with that did follow it and somebody that I worked with that didn't. So there was one lady that I was working with where she rented out a car. Car came back, it had a dent. She submitted this claim specifically to Turo. Turo came back and they're like, your upload time isn't in accordance with our policies, claims denied. Well, of course, she inquired more about that. Well, what does that mean? I didn't upload the pictures in a quality time. And this goes back to what I was talking about earlier in the video. When a car comes back, the pictures have to be taken of the vehicle within a 24-hour time frame of it coming back and then uploaded. She took the pictures after 24 hours of the car coming back. And you might say, well, Peter, how did they even know? Well, they get to look at the metadata of your pictures, and that's how they can see, okay, when exactly were these pictures taken? Her claim was denied. Similar issue with, I guess, not exactly apples to apples, but relatively similar, where he had a car and a person basically, they like ran over a curb and like crunched the front bumper a little bit, but he took his pictures in the correct time frame and uploaded. It was the 30-40 pictures that we recommend. Okay, boom. He got the money where he was covered. So that's the first kind of insurance. Another thing that I wish I was explained is Turo's different protection plans. We have a whole video that goes over that and which one that we think makes the most sense. I'll make sure that it's linked here. But the other thing that I want to talk about, which is off-rental insurance. I'm sure all of you are familiar, if you're adults and you're watching this, that you have to have car insurance in all 50 states, right? The challenge with this business is that personal insurance will not touch this business with a 10-foot pole. They want nothing to do with it. They actually won't cover it if something happens with your car off trip. And I'll give you guys an example. There was another client that I was dealing with out of Florida. I guess I won't name insurance so I don't get in any trouble here, but he had a personal insurance policy. This car, I think it was a truck of some sort. I can't remember the exact year and model, but he had a truck, and the truck gets rear-ended when it's not on a trip. He was going to get new tires on it or new brakes on it, something like that. So the bumper's a little messed up. He submits it to his personal insurance company. Personal insurance company looks at this. They do a full investigation. Boom, stamp of deny. Not that there are any stamps anymore because we're in the modern era, but digital stamp of deny. Okay, they throw that on there. He comes back, and this client we were working with, they were pretty intelligent. So he comes back and he's like, well, I actually asked my rep if it was okay for me to still have this insurance while I was also renting out the vehicle. And as insurance companies are, they came back and they're like, it doesn't matter. You signed here on the dotted line where you cannot use this for car sharing or ride sharing. Claim was denied. Now, He was out around $2,000, which isn't a crazy amount. But the alternative here, if he would have the proper off rental insurance, then he wouldn't have a problem like this. Peter, what are the proper companies? I know ABI is a big one, Tint's a big one, Roamly is a big one. Those are companies that operate in the majority of the states. If you read, they have, some of them have different qualifications, so figure out which one's best for you. But those are three right off the bat that could really help you guys. Now, the next thing is how critical that reviews are to your Turo account. Really is something that I wish I would have known starting out. And when I say starting out, this is within like the first year, 2-year cycle. And I did figure this out as time went. When you get a bad review on a car, it does push that car down on the algorithm. Now, I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm perfect and all of my reviews are 5 stars. And I'll never forget this one review. So this was a review specifically that I had on a Fusion. And the car came back. Okay, I guess was fine, whatever. They put on their, oh, AC wasn't working. Well, they didn't tell me the AC wasn't working. They just left a bad review. I noticed for the next couple weeks after that vehicle wasn't getting rented out as much as the other vehicles in my fleet. And that was the only thing that changed about it. Because before it was being rented at around that 80% utilization, after it dropped significantly. So that's something that's super important as well, the reviews. And the eighth thing, I'm actually going to liken this to a story in my past. When I told you guys I used to buy and sell electronics, so typically the model that I used to have is that I would buy things locally, such as back in the day, the hot iPhone was an iPhone 10. I'd buy an iPhone 10 locally, I would sell it on eBay. Now, at the in between, I'd inspect it. I had different ways to check to make the phone was good, that it was paid for, that everything was in working order, and then I would sell it on eBay. Sometimes when I would sell things on eBay, and I remember this because I was younger, so I was a lot more emotional with things like this, the guests would basically come back and say, oh, this device isn't what Peter said that it was. They would say, I want to keep the device. And if it was a $500 device, I want $250 worth of a refund. And I would submit all this stuff to eBay, all the checks that I did, my bill of sale, everything showing that like I really looked at this. It was fine. Maybe it got damaged in transit or maybe they did something to it. And half of the time I would get to keep the money. The other half of the time, the person that got the phone got to keep the money. I'm telling you guys a story because Turo is very similar. There are going to be some times where you get a bad review or somebody smokes in your car or somebody just trashes the car and you don't get the cleaning fee or the smoking fee, or even somebody returns your car with a half tank of gas and sometimes you don't get the gas fee even though you felt like you submitted everything that it needed to be. It's just a part of the business. Turo wants to keep their customers as happy as possible. They try to keep you as happy as possible. Just be prepared that you're not going to win the majority of the time. It's basically a 50-50. Now, the way to combat this is to always have your documentation in order. From your pickup to your drop off, specifically taking as many pictures as you can before the car, communicating with the guests consistently. When the car comes back, taking those pictures, making sure that it's in great condition before it goes out. What is great condition? It's cleaned, it's vacuumed, no check engine lights, brakes are good, tires are good. Just be prepared for when you have challenges. It might not always go your way. Now, the ninth thing, and I learned this over time, is that without, and this kind of goes back to one of the other points, without having the proper systems in play, do not be surprised if you start to get exhausted of this business. When you start doing the mundane over and 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 over again, you're going to get sick of it. You're going to be like, oh my goodness, like I got into this to really make some money and to really provide myself with a better life or to provide my family with a better life. The best way to do that is to put systems in place so that then as time goes on, you can transition from working in the business to working on the business. And let me give you an example from when I was running it. What is working in? Working in is, okay, I'm doing all the guest communications, all the cleaning, all the pickup and drop off. Anytime that there's a problem with the car, I'm dealing with all of it. That's working in. Working on. How do I make sure that my numbers are in good shape so I can get funding later on? What vehicles should I be adding to my fleet that are going to consistently rent out? Okay, it seems like that my bookings are starting to slow down at let's say I have a 50, 60 car fleet. Maybe my market is a little bit saturated. Maybe I should diversify. That would be an example of working on the business. But you can't work on until you have all of these things set up with a system and you have part-time employees that can specifically help you with these things. The 10th thing that I wish that I would have known, and this is why, again, for those of you watching, I'm a big proponent of know your numbers, know your numbers. And the reason why is because in the beginning, I didn't have the proper bookkeeping in play. I was not setting aside money for things. So I would be all excited. Oh, when I had 5 cars, oh, I'm making money. This is great. And then I would have one car that would need $1,000 worth of work and it would take a big hit to my bank account. I was like, oh, I wasn't expecting that. That's terrible. I mean, that's money that I could have used for something else. What I learned is that if you set aside a certain amount of money per maintenance per vehicle, now when something comes up, you're prepared for it. It doesn't hit you with that same kind of surprise. And I want to throw this in here, guys. If you're watching this video and you're like, wow, Peter, that probably took you years and thousands of dollars to figure out all these things. Bingo, you're right. It took a lot of time. So if you want to skip all of the time, effort, and money that it takes, that's basically what we created Car Rental Coach for. It's for people like you that are watching it. You're serious about starting or you're serious about growing, and you actually have the resources to make your goals a reality. If that's you, go to the website. If you're qualified to work with us, either me or a member of my team will get on a call with you personally. We'll analyze your market and we'll see if there's a way that we can help you. So the 11th thing that I wish that I knew, and I guess this will relate more so to the car rental business as a whole, for those of you that are starting this and you have a decent amount of capital, let's say that you have 40,000. Let's not even create something. I'll give you guys a real life example. I have a client that came to me and he's like, hey, Peter, look, this client specifically was based out of Atlanta. He's like, hey, look, I have around $50,000 in cash. I want to see this business bring in $3,000 a month worth of revenue. Great. So we helped him get the whole business started. He actually has 5 cars, bringing around 4,000 to 5,000 a month. So now his next thing is that, okay, he wants to get to 10,000 a month. And what's nice with this client is that we showed him how his book should look, specifically his bookkeeping, accompanied along with an accountant that we recommended, so that then when we introduced him to financing partners, his books looked good enough where he was actually able to get approved for another 50,000. The only reason why that was a reality is because his books looked a certain way and he could prove to this institution that he was turning a profit. If you are watching this video and you don't have a bookkeeping software and you want to be able to tell me to a T, hey, Peter, this is what my numbers are, this is my revenue, these are my expenses, this is my actual profit, you will never be able to get money from an institution. So now, what's the question that you guys are asking? Hey, what software should I use? What accountant should I use? Accountant's personal preference. Software, I really like QuickBooks personally, and some people use Excel or all that other stuff. I like QuickBooks. It connects right to your bank account, and then you can just load the transactions from there. The accountant can categorize them. I would use that. I think it's the most beneficial. But yeah, guys, I hope this video helped. I took a lot of time prepping for it, and I'll see you guys on the next one.